Summer, thank you so much for coming on Unboxed.
No worries.
We'll start with something slightly lighter. What is on your list for today? What are you doing?
My list for today is this, and this is like my main thing of the day. Like, I don't like to overwhelm my day with too much stuff because I get so easily burnt out.
Yeah.
So I try and limit, whilst I've been back in London, myself to one social worky thing a day.
Yeah.
And then go home, relax, and then still have mental power to maybe make a video or have time to myself and do something that I like. So I don't know what I'm doing this afternoon. Probably go to Joe and the Juice.
Yeah, love
and then
Joe and
go
the
home and film myself eating it or
Very
something.
good. Very good. It's true though, right? I mean, I guess people often underestimate how you need space in order to make content, and actually creators who are just constantly making things, especially on TikTok and everything else where the demand is so high, if you don't give yourself a bit of room to breathe, it's actually difficult to make that your focus, right?
Yeah, that's been my main struggle since I started content creation, is finding that balance. Because if you don't get the balance, it affects your work. And then you don't do any work because you're stressed.
Yeah.
And it's just like this cycle. And it's taken me so long to find what works.
Do you think you found it now?
Error. I'm getting closer. I wouldn't say perfect, but I'm close.
Going back to when you started, not that long ago, right? This is all relatively recent for you. Everything changed when you met your now boyfriend, Matt. Can you tell us about the story, how that all happened? And obviously it went viral. People probably know the story, have seen it everywhere.
So I was working just a normal 9-to-5 job in London. I was like an office manager for a construction company. And I'd been in construction for like 4 years. And it's fun because it's like you get to work on the building sites and you're with a load of geezers, there's the banter, like it wasn't boring. But I knew like I didn't want to do that forever. I've always been like I'm like a thrill seeker. So the whole time I'm there, I'm just saving to go travelling, but I could never really save enough. Like I had this vision in my head of when I have 10 grand in my account, I'm going to go to Thailand and then everything will work itself out. Like I used to fit that. I believed that. I just got this idea in my head about Thailand and 10 grand. And then I'll go and everything will fall into place because I don't want this life. I felt like I was going to go to some exotic country and find a purpose and go down a different route. That was my hope, because believing that I was going to carry on the route that I was on was too scary to like even comprehend. I just got done planning the Christmas party actually for everyone in the office, and the manager called me in and he sacked me. Just randomly, like on a random Tuesday. He's like, Summer, we're letting you go. I was like,
okay.
Are you joking? Like I was literally shocked because I thought I was, they're lucky to have me. He made it out to be redundancy, but I think he could tell I wasn't really passionate.
Yeah, because
I was doing like the bare minimum. Like.
Maybe it was justified. I mean, was there a part of you that was, you could sort of see that coming, where you were like, I need an escape, and actually that was the push that you needed to actually go right?
Exactly. Yeah. It's I didn't want to leave because I don't want to give up.
Yeah.
And it's scary to leave a job, isn't it? Every time you have that mindset, I don't want to give up, I don't want to be a quitter. So sometimes you just need to push out the door, because as soon as he said it, I was like, like, that's all right. Yeah, I'm going to go home. And I felt like a relief. And then when I got home, I posted my first ever like talking TikTok. I was just telling the story in the TikTok, I've just lost my job, and do you know what? I don't even care. Like I feel like a new lease of life. Like who knows what could happen now?
Yeah.
Like it's actually exciting. And then that did quite well. That night, everyone was like so relating to it. They was like, oh my God, me too. Like this made me feel so much better about getting fired from my job. And then that night I went on to Hinge, like the dating app.
Yeah.
Because I thought, well, I may as well get a date
what else am I gonna
plan
do?
for tomorrow. Do you know what I mean? I was so excited. And I ended up talking to this Canadian boy.
That night?
That night. I was like up at like 1 a.m, didn't have work in the morning, so I was on Hinge. And when it's like kicks off on a good note, like you just go back and forth really fast. And this boy was like, oh, I'm only here for like 4 days. Like, I'd love to meet up, blah, blah. I was like, well, I've just been fired, so I'm free.
Whenever you want.
I was like, let's go to Winter Wonderland. So we went to Winter Wonderland the next day. And when I was on the train on the way there, I made another TikTok. And I just said, oh, guys, I'm on the train. Like, it's only been 24 hours since I lost my job and I'm already on the way to meet a fit Canadian boy from Hinge. I'm quoting myself because, like, I know the video. And then I was on the date. It was going really well. Like, and then I just looked at my phone and I realised that it had popped off. And I was like, oh, my God, I'm going to have to tell my date now. Like, I've made a video about you on the train and it has gone viral. And so
When you got off when like you started seeing the numbers, where did it get to? Where you were like, okay, this is kind of big now.
Well, we were literally sitting in Winter Wonderland having a drink, and it was probably about an hour in, and I looked, and it was like, I don't know, it was on like 50,000 likes or something like that in an hour.
Likes?
Yeah. It was going viral.
Yeah.
Like I'd never seen that
like,
before.
By the way,
like when you just refresh it and it's like, like I'd never experienced that before, and it gives you a little dopamine hit, doesn't it? And knowing what I know now,
buzzed into Winter Wonderland, like
exactly.
Highs of height,
But knowing what I know now, that you never get that same dopamine hit ever again.
A lot of people say that. We've had that a number of times where people come on and say, like, you have something go viral or something massive, and actually you're always sort of not chasing that again, but it's never going to hit the same. Yeah,
like you get the same numbers again, but it doesn't feel like the same anymore because you weren't used to it the first time. It was like a big deal.
Yeah.
So that was happening, and luckily he was kind of down for the whole like storyline, and he was like, oh, let's take another one now then. So everyone was like, oh my God, like she's actually going to move to Canada. Like I can't believe this. And I think people just felt like inspired and excited. Like, because a lot of people feel the same, like trapped in their 9 to 5, want to do something crazy. Everyone's scared.
Yeah.
And they saw that and they was like, oh my God, things are possible. Like they watched it happen in real time. And I'd been ready for this for a while. Like one, I actually did really fancy it, and I love the thrill. So it was kind of cool to me that it was Canadian. I felt like I was in a little Disney film.
Yeah. Especially
and he probably felt the same about me as well.
Yeah.
Because he thinks I'm like the Queen or something with my accent. He thinks I'm like the royals, even though that's funny to us because I'm so common. But so I was ready I knew what to do when that happened, because I'd been trying on YouTube and stuff for years before that, never worked out, never quite hit that point. But when I went viral on TikTok, I was like, right, I need to carry this on. The crazier I make it, the better it will go. And maybe I won't even have to go back to work.
Yeah.
And maybe this is what's meant to happen.
Yeah. Well, clearly, I think everything planned out and everything happened clearly as it was meant to, right?
Yeah,
it was all one thing after the next in perfect timing succession. I mean, did you get a lot of comments from people at the time almost seeing what you were doing, inspiring them to make the same kind of move? Did you have any of that? Because I can imagine to see it work out so well for you probably gave a lot of people a sense of hope where actually, I don't need to live like this. And I think actually nowadays, so many people are feeling jaded, they're feeling apathetic, they're not liking their jobs, they're trying to escape that kind of rat race 9 to 5, especially in London. What did it give to people? Did you see in like the comments, the sort of reaction?
Just so the excitement just shows it all, doesn't it? When people are rooting for you, that shows that they see themselves in you. And it was at like an astronomical level, with hundreds of thousands of comments. And then the message is, oh, this is so inspirational. I'm going to quit my job tomorrow or whatever. I'm thinking,
hang on. Are you sure? Yeah.
But so then for our second date, we went to Manchester the next day, because he already had an Airbnb booked in Manchester. He's like, if you don't come to Manchester with me, we're not going to see each other now. I was like, well, I've got nothing to do. I'll get the train to Manchester.
If you're going to end up going to Canada, you can get yourself to Manchester.
Exactly. Right? And so there we were talking like, what we're going to do next. Like, you're going to go back to Canada, I'm going to stay here. Unless we do something else crazy, it's probably going to end.
Yeah.
Like, So he was like, well, I've always wanted to go travelling and I don't have a job at the moment. I've been saving to go travelling for years. But
he'd been saving?
He'd been saving. He wants to travel the world, but his friends really aren't in the same place. He didn't have anyone to go with. And I was like, well, I've been thinking about going to Thailand for years.
Yeah.
But I didn't have 10 grand and I just lost my job. So I was like, but I've got about 4 grand.
Yeah.
And he was like, oh, I don't know. And I was like, no, because if I carry on with TikTok, maybe it will blow up and then I'll start making money through that and it will all work out. And he was like, oh.
I mean, if you say so.
Yeah, if you say so. Like, it's up to you. And I was like, yeah, let's do it. And it'll be good for the story, for the TikToks as well. And we might fall in love. And that would be great.
Investment. Do you know
Content and relationship investment at the same time. It's like a
2
tricky
for 1.
thing.
Yeah. Basically, 10 grand worth of value for 4.
Yeah, and we were on such a high. And then I started making a bit of money through TikTok straight away. Like, got signed to an agency. I was really excited, doing a couple song promos. Like my first ad for like £400 or something. And I was like, oh my God, yes. Great.
Yeah.
And I made the whole storyline of, it's coming up. I've just booked my flight. Like, me and Matt are missing each other so much. Like, we can't wait to meet up again in Thailand and reunite. And the drama. And I did feel that way too. I was being honest.
Yeah.
But at the time, I wasn't really thinking how he would feel. Like, he was matching my energy, but he was probably thinking, oh, bloody hell,
going
like
on?
this is a bit
Yeah.
crazy. Like there's this girl like crying because she can't book a flight. You know, online I'd be like, oh, guys, like, oh, my flight's been like cancelled. I'm gonna have to rebook it. Like, I don't know if this is gonna work out. He's probably thinking this girl might be a bit. Yeah, do you know what I mean? But I didn't care for some reason. I felt like it was.
Did you speak to him about how you felt about it?
I did, and he seemed to be on the same level.
Yeah.
But when I got there, we had a few issues. It did turn out that he was a bit worried if I was using him for the clout or for the storyline, like because he'd seen in the past I'd made videos and there might have been a boy in it or something like that. So he's like, "Oh, am I just another one of these pawns in your game?" Do you know what I mean?
I mean, do you think there are sort of learnings in there for you around, you know, the impact of blowing up quickly with just normal people, right? When you're not used to this level of sort of, you know, fame and people knowing you or your story being public, to that happen so quickly for you, where you're then broadcasting to a massive audience. And for him, you know, what were some of the learnings in that in terms of adjusting to having reach, having followers, having this kind of clout, whilst at the start of this relationship, ultimately?
Well, I feel when we were in Thailand, when we first got there, it wasn't, when we first saw each other after 2 months, it was like, it wasn't the same. It was a little bit awkward because we were very full on, very fast at the beginning. And then when we saw each other after a couple of months, it was a bit like, oh, we've had all this hype on the internet. We didn't really know how to act with each other. And he admitted to me later on that he kind of didn't know what to expect. Was I going to have a camera set up in the room when he walked in? And I had people telling me to do that. Like my friends, like, yeah, you have to set up the camera,
thing, right?
like go live or whatever. But I would say to them, I can't do that. Like I actually want to pursue this person. I can't have to build a real relationship as well.
It's too intense.
So I was thinking about all these things, but it was still on his mind.
Yeah.
And for the first month, he didn't know how to take me because I was filming everything every day, vlogging, like. And we didn't really know each other. So he really didn't know whether I was real, whether I was doing it for other reasons.
That's so interesting. It must have been quite, because there's a thing that, you know, a lot of people do struggle with, which is oversharing. Like, where's the line of this is my thing, or in a relationship, this is our thing, and I'm not going to be filming, I'm not going to be vlogging, but then also sharing everything. And actually, for you as well, if this is your career at this stage, where actually this is making you money, you know, you've just quit your job, there's almost a profession. It's such a weird conflict, right? There's a professional need to work really hard to actually make money and build your career on social. But at the same time, the content to do that is extremely personal. You know, so when you were there, like, were there any moments where he was like, nah, like, turn it off, I can't do this? Or was he actually backing it the whole way? Like, what was the vibe?
He seemed to be backing it the first couple of weeks, and then with maybe like a month in, he told me that what had been, because I could feel he was holding back a little bit, but he was still there, so he must like me. So I was quite confused and anxious, of how he felt. But then when he actually opened up and said, I really like you, but this is how I feel about it, and I'm not sure if you're being real with me, I was like, oh, I understand. And then when I told him, no, I do really like you, I just thought, now you know, take it and let's carry on. Because in my head I felt a bit like, well, if it weren't for this, then I wouldn't be here. So I felt a bit annoyed at the same time. Like, well, don't, you know, I want you to be supportive in this. Like, because if I just stop now, then, well, there's no way I'd ever be able to be with you if this works out. Like, you're going to move to London? Probably not. I'm quite willing to move there, but I have to have the money and the career to do it.
That's what I mean. You're almost dependent on the content in order to live and, like, you know, be able to do the things you need to do.
Exactly.
But at the same time, he's the focal point of that content. It's like there's an odd line there, right?
You're still figuring it out at the beginning as well. What even is your content? All I can do is look at other people who I view as similar creators to myself or who I want to be and get ideas from them. And, you know, I saw travel creators when they go... Yeah,
who were your references at the start?
So for me, it was Anna Paul. Like at the time...
That's when she was like blowing up as... Like, she's like blown, like huge, right?
Yeah, she was huge. And I loved her travel vlogs. Everywhere she went, she would vlog it. So I was like, I have to vlog every day like Anna Paul. I want to be like Anna Paul. Like my whole...
That's like 10 full-time jobs in one to be Anna Paul. I don't know how people like her do it.
Oh, honestly. I know. But and like everyone in her videos is so like on it, and they seem like
Yeah,
it's a
yeah,
full
yeah.
production.
Yeah.
Everyone's really enthusiastic.
Yeah.
So I was kind of expecting that
He's
from
just
my
like,
boyfriend.
so please stop. Yeah,
I know. So I'd be like, why are you not acting like Attis?
yeah. Have you seen this video? Yeah.
Why are you not being Anna Paul's brother right now? Like he's just like, oh, you know.
So once it makes millions, then he'll be a little bit,
Exactly.
Yeah.
I was like, well, do you know what? But then it made me think more, well, maybe I don't have to film every day. Maybe Anna Paul doesn't film every day. Like maybe I could just do story times or say what happened in my day rather than filming it. And you just have to like go through it and figure out what works for you and what makes you the happiest and the people around you the most relaxed. Like it's so much trial and error.
Yeah. So tell us a story about when you first went to Canada. What was it like? You moved there obviously after Thailand, came back to England, and then I guess decided to move. So what was that process like? And what was it like actually being in a whole new country with your new boyfriend?
So we went to Thailand, Bali, and then Australia. And then I came home for a month. He went home for a month, and then we went to Canada. And I didn't know that he was going to ask me to come move with him.
Yeah.
Because we'd had quite a rocky road.
Yeah. A lot's
we'd only
happened
been like really good for like a month when it seemed to all just click into place and we understood each other more.
Yeah.
And we just all of a sudden,
I guess you hashed out so much traveling, right? Which
exactly. You learn so much about someone in.
And if you can last it afterwards, and you're actually like,
yeah,
you're right.
because I feel like there's two stages to like falling in love with someone. Like everyone wants the instant infatuation connection, and that's one bit, and you kind of feel like you're in love there.
Yeah.
But then you actually have to get to know each other, and it's like, will you still be in love after that? And then that's like a deeper love when you get past
and then
all
you
that.
realise that actually everyone's so deeply flawed and
you love them
miserable.
anyway. Yeah,
and that's it. It's like learning. It's a good definition of like marriage or like success in relationship is learning to love the unlovable.
Exactly.
Which is actually probably quite true. Both you being unlovable and also the person you're with. Like as long as you're both aware that you're both pretty flawed and awful, then at least you're honest.
Yeah, exactly. So we were in that place, and he was like, "Oh, well, you're gonna have to come over to Canada now." And I was like, "Oh, really? Like, you really want me to?"
If you want.
Because he has his own flat.
Yeah.
So I could just easily just slot in. And I can only stay up in Canada for up to 6 months at a time because I don't actually live there. I live here.
Right.
Like I'm just on a holiday visa and I just
go.
if
anyone asks, you live here.
Seriously.
So you live here.
So I just go there for up to 6 months at a time. But I got over there and his dad picked me up from the airport. They had flowers for me. It's like summer.
So nice.
They've been
Canadian.
I know. They've been watching me on TikTok, like his parents, for months. So they already felt kind of like they knew me as well.
Yeah. That's a question. Yeah. So what did they think of this whole thing?
They were egging him on. They were like, "You should do it." Like I got there and his mum had me flowers as well. And I just thought they were like Disney characters. Like that's how I see them because you only really grow up seeing them in films, don't you? Like the Prince Charming and the Brad Pitt and the whatever. Yeah. So when they talk, it's kind of, I feel like I'm in a Disney film. And like everything looks different. Like the little neighborhood I live in, like even the trees are brighter and the flowers are brighter and everyone smiles when you walk past.
The brick looks more red and everything else.
Exactly. And that's kind of what I was looking for. Just a new environment, like anywhere but here, basically.
Yeah. I mean, obviously you love traveling, being spontaneous, like being, I guess, somewhat impulsive, doing things that feel right. Like, why? What is that? Like, why? Like, what's kind of behind the sense of being willing to go to Canada with a boy you've obviously recently met and started a relationship with, or going to Thailand? But like, why are you trying to kind of constantly be going out and moving? Like, what's that kind of restlessness about?
I feel like that's such a good question. It's like something I journal about. Like my manager asked me that the other day. She was like, "Where do you think that comes from?" Because my sister is, we grew up in the same house, but she is the opposite of me. She could not care less about going traveling, doing impulsive things. She's always had a boyfriend and she's got a mortgage and she's 23 and all she cares about is getting an extension on her kitchen and getting married. Like, you know what I mean? So where does it come from? I feel like it's half of it I'm born with. Like I've always been quite a thrill seeker.
Yeah.
Maybe it's a little bit of ADHD. Maybe it's a little bit of chronic dissatisfaction. Or, a little bit depressive. Like if you want to see it, because I like to look at everything from it. I'm not going to be like, "Oh yeah, I'm just like this spontaneous girl," and I know there's more to life.
There's always a slightly something that not you're trying to get away from, but naturally, right? You're trying to go to something better or try something different or more interesting or
so
more
maybe it's because I'm not
dopamine infusing,
satisfied.
whatever it is,
Exactly.
right? Yeah, and so what's the dissatisfaction about, I guess?
I think maybe a lot of it comes from just seeing my mum, like as a single parent growing up. She works for the NHS, like she doesn't get paid good money. She struggled, and I shared a room with my sister, and we had a bunk bed. I was on the top bunk till I was 20, and I thought, I don't want to live like this when I'm older. Like I want more. And then I'd be on social media and seeing, the rise of influencers, and with social media, when I was like 13, it started happening, the whole Instagram thing. And then you're seeing what other people are doing and how other people are living. And I was like, oh my God, there's so much more out there. And a seed was just planted, I think.
Yeah. And I guess that built upon your temperament, which is probably more impulsive.
Which is exactly.
Rather, your sister's is more security, stable. And actually both of you are trying to get out from the challenges which you grew up on and actually build something better in two completely different ways, but actually both trying to get away from the same thing.
Yeah, exactly. That makes sense.
So what does success mean to you now?
I think now success, I've worked out, means being financially free to the point where I can decide what I do with my day. I'm not on anyone's watch. I'm completely in control. If I want to go to Bali, I can go to Bali. If I want to go to London, I can go to London. Yeah, and I don't have to worry. I can say even something as simple as, I don't have to get the train today. If I don't want to, I can get an Uber and not feel guilty about it. Yeah. Because that's how I've grown up. It's like, you can have this or that. Take the bus to save money. Do this to save everything to save money, because that's how my mum's had to live. So she's installed that in me. And even being home now with her, she'll be like, I'll go to my nan's down the beach and she'll be like, you can get the 246 and then the 387 and then like 10 different buses and then a train. I was like, Mum, I can get an Uber. Like that, when you have a little bit more money, you can say to yourself, it's okay. And I feel like that's success. Like just the little wins in life.
Being able to get an
free.
Uber rather than getting a bus. What does your mum think of everything?
She's happy for me. I feel like she still has that little lack mindset a little bit, so she's always telling me, save your money. I'm like, what do you want for your birthday? I'll get your garden done up for you, I'll do this for you. And she's like, oh no, Summer, save your money, like you must save it, because she thinks it's going to disappear. And I'm like, no Mum, that's not the way I'm trying to live. That is in the back of my head as well, and I'm trying to think differently about it, because I know that's not a wealthy mindset. You have to know that it's going to keep coming, everything's going to be fine.
Could pivot into your actual content creation itself and your process. I want to sort of dig into that a little bit. So before you were making TikTok, as you were saying, you were making YouTube videos for a long time. What did the process of making content on YouTube, how did that inform the content that you're currently making?
Right, so when I first started posting YouTube videos, it was, I think, 2016, because I'd just been on a reality show on ITV2.
Okay.
And
what reality show did you
It was called Bromance, and obviously it was a flop because you don't even know what it was.
Was that the one? Hang on, was that the one where?
Oh God, someone's gonna know what it is.
No, it was. I vaguely. Was it like a Roman? Yeah. It was like two groups, boys and girls.
Boyfriends and girlfriends,
and all dressed as Romans, right? Yeah, I remember that.
Yeah, it was like 8 couples, and I was one of the couples with my ex-boyfriend.
No way.
And I was like 19. I was like, what the hell's going on?
How did that? Okay, before we get into, how did that happen?
I applied. Well, obviously me. I was 19 and I applied, me and my boyfriend, for this ITV2 couples reality show. It said like there's going to be games involved. Like didn't really say much about it. And I applied, didn't even tell my boyfriend. And then we got through to the little phone call audition thing. And I was like, oh, come on. And he was like, I don't know, Summer, like, it's a bit weird. I don't know. Yeah. But we ended up getting on it. And it turned, and we didn't know what it was until we got there. Yeah.
Did they not really say too much?
No, nothing. Like, I just was thinking it's going to be a bit of Love Island games, few, like,
Did they tell you the content with the Romans and everything
no.
else? They didn't even tell you that?
Didn't even know that.
Stop. So you were in tunics and stuff, right?
We knew there was a cash prize or whatever, and then we were going to be up against games with other couples, but I didn't know the extent of the games. So we got there and it was an ancient Roman film set in Bulgaria, and we all had to wear these costumes.
You were like tunic. I remember the promo for it. I remember, yeah. It was all like, oh. Did it end your relationship going on that show?
It actually did. That's funny. I never thought about it like that, but I actually, when we broke up, I was like, if we never went on, this wouldn't have happened.
ITV2, man. Right, we were talking about YouTube videos.
Right.
And how, when you started, what was the, what learnings did you take from the process of making YouTube
Yeah.
that's now informed you about TikTok?
So when I started making the YouTube videos, it was just after Broman's aired because I thought, let me gain some momentum with this. Even though I was 19, I still kind of knew the ropes. If you're going to be on a show, start making some YouTube videos. You know, this was 6 years ago.
Yeah.
And the only thing I knew that was like popping on YouTube was makeup tutorials. And I liked makeup at the time.
Who were you watching at the time?
Holly Boone, like Imagination, like Shani Grimond, like all these makeup influencers, maybe like Jeffree Star and people like that.
Yeah.
And so I tried that, and I would just make makeup video looks or whatever. But now they're still on there, some of them, and when you watch it back, you're like, who even is that? Like I was trying to be all robotic and like
all like YouTuber.
Yeah, I was literally copying other people's personalities without even meaning to do it. Because you don't really know. I bought a camera and I set it up at my nan's spare room because there was no room in my bunk bed house. Do you know what I mean? So I'd march around there with my equipment after work and like do it. But it was hard and I didn't really know what I was doing. I was copying other people. And I did that for a while and I realised I couldn't keep it up, probably because I wasn't being authentic.
Yeah. And it's a big thing everyone says on here, right? And it's, you know, it's like you cannot copy other people in order to break out. Like and this is what you found probably on TikTok, right? The minute you were being yourself and being properly authentic and just saying what you wanted, posting what you wanted, not thinking about crafting something in an image, is the minute it starts to take off.
Exactly.
You know,
and that is what happened really, because at that time I had that belief that you had to be like a beauty guru or something. But then I stopped doing it for a couple of years, and then I came across Tana Mojo like by chance, like just started watching her and I was like, oh my god, this girl's great. Like all she does is be herself, tell stories about all the crazy things that's happened in her life. I was like, I could do that.
Yeah.
And I really got it in my head. I was like, I could definitely do that. And she was the first person I'd saw do it like that. So then I started saying to my friends, I'm going to start making YouTubes about story times instead, like story times of when this happened. And they would be like, oh, Summer, like maybe you shouldn't say that.
Yeah.
And I was like, no, but you don't get it. Like the more shocking, the better. Like it was like when this kind of thing was becoming like the hype, that they were a bit like, oh, okay, like don't say my name. And in those ones, my personality started to come through because it's easy to tell a story about something that happened to you and being enthusiastic about it.
What was the video? What story did the best?
The sex one. It was like 10 things that boys do in bed that girls hate. No, yeah,
and that blew up.
And I sat there, and I was being graphic and vulgar and whatever, and it didn't blow up.
No, but
like a lot of people watched it, and in my area, I'd go out sometimes to the pub, and people were like, I watch your YouTube videos.
Oh, really? Yeah.
And I'd be like, oh wow, like people actually watch those ones. So then I kind of knew that was the direction that I needed to take it. But still, I wasn't very consistent with YouTube because I feel like YouTube's a lot more work. For me, it was.
Would you ever do it again?
I would now, but for some reason, I've got this block in my head. Like, I already feel quite overwhelmed, like with the content that I make, which I feel bad saying because God, it's an easy job compared to everybody else's and what I've done in the past. But not
isn't though, right?
But like,
I don't think it's as easy as I think people assume. It's 100 times easier than it actually is.
I know, and I think it's easy in some ways. Like, you don't have to get up early in the morning. You don't have to do this. You don't have to do that, and you've got no one bossing you around. But one of my managers said to me, "Oh, Summer," just when I was asking her for advice, she was like, the best influencers treat their day like a 9-to-5 job. And I was like, that is not true. I cannot treat my day like a 9-to-5 job because I don't have energy to make an enthusiastic, authentic video from 9 to 5. Like my energy goes like this all day.
100%.
I wake up, I can't film some enthusiastic story time about my ex-boyfriend when I've just woken up.
No. I
have to wait till I'm in the mode.
Yeah.
Or I have to go out and do something to film or whatever. Yeah. So I can't be filming all that time. So then it adds that unnecessary pressure of every time I sit down, I'm like, oh, I should be making a video right now. It's the only thing I've got to do and I can't even do that. So
I guess it's also, I mean, it's slightly more difficult, I think, in terms of when you're more like, not lifestyle, but when, vlogging, you're sort of tracking it, because then you have to do things that are interesting. People, you're constantly, I'd imagine, thinking about, right, what's the next thing that I can film to turn into a video? Like, how am I planning my life to make my content more interesting, right? If you're documenting everything as your journey. But I guess if you find a way to format what you're doing or turn something into more of a show or more of a sort of environment whereby you come in, do that thing, and then you're out, that's probably an easier way of managing it, because then actually you've got set times, set like hours, and you're not constant. Because I think the thinking about new things all the time is incredibly draining. And I can imagine that's where, for example, with YouTube, there's probably a bit of a block. It's like, how am I going to come up with new things all the time when it's already hard enough for TikTok? But if it's more like a format or like a environment, a set, a thing that's clear, it's got a premise that's the same every time.
Just a vlog, just a weekly vlog.
Yeah.
Like that would be actually probably easier than making 2 TikToks a day.
Yeah.
Because the how many a day thing really threw me off. I'm like,
but or like a podcast or like a show, like, you know, it's like Chicken Shop Date, things like that, right? Whereby they're a set format and structured thing where you go in, bang, you know how it's going to work. You come out and it's a lot easier to man. Not easy, they're not easy to do, but to get the format right. But once you've got that, it's a lot less headache, I think.
Yeah, I think so as well. But there's just this block in my mind, like, well, maybe you should wait to start YouTube again till you got like 1 million TikTok followers. Because
I should do it, man.
Do you think? Okay, then.
Do it. But find a way to make it work around your life rather than making your life work around your content.
Well, I would just do maybe a weekly vlog or something, because that would fit in to start. That would fit into my life. It's not effort. All I have to do is film what I'm doing.
Yeah.
And then I can take the pressure off myself to vlog everything on TikTok as well, and keep that more story times. And if you want to keep seeing my vlogs, now you have to go to my YouTube. And like, if you have a certain number of subscribers on YouTube, I feel like, you know, they're like more loyal on YouTube. Yeah. People are it's like more legit in my mind, because people are searching for you to watch your videos. 100%. They're clicking on your thing. On TikTok, you're just coming up on people's page.
100%.
So the views aren't as valuable in my mind. Like,
you're not as invested.
Exactly. Yeah. So when I see like a YouTuber who gets 65k on a video after 24 hours, I think that's amazing.
Yeah, I'd almost times it by like 10 in terms of value. So like 60,000 views is probably, or 60,000 views on YouTube is worth 10 times, I would say, the amount.
I think so too, and it hurts to hear that. Yeah. It really does, because
but that's the opportunity.
I know,
that's why it's exciting.
Yeah,
because like however many subs even you have on, you know, and all the effort you're putting into, I think it's like great, but the opportunity for like the depth of engagement is definitely. I said this on this. We did our podcast show. I was sat with the MD of YouTube, and I said to her, she was like happy about it, but I said, like, I really believe that YouTube is like the cornerstone of this whole thing. It's like, if that's good, everything else can work. If it's not the core of what you're doing, it's a lot harder for everything else to build. And I say that's where the time and effort goes into. And that's where it's like, you know, even if it takes a pivot where you're like doing less, or you're, you know, stripping back the ideas so they're less intensive on TikTok and on short form, like adding another element as a priority, or even if it's like a podcast or a format again where you can come in, return. You'd do an amazing podcast if you ever wanted to.
I think so too, but yeah, I feel like I push it away because it's the easier thing to do. Yeah. And I feel overwhelmed with the TikToks when actually I'm doing myself a disservice, because the pressure, I would be able to take pressure off myself. I would give myself, you know, I'd say it's okay that I didn't post on TikTok today because I'm posting a YouTube video, which takes a lot of work. I'm not lazy.
Yeah.
You know, like I see, like, for example, some people post 4 times a day on TikTok, like the girls I watch, and because they film everything in their day. I can't do that because I'll annoy my boyfriend. But I will still compare myself to them and beat myself up. I didn't post 4 times today. Maybe I'm not successful. Maybe I'm not going to be as big as them because I don't post 4 times a day. And then I'll be like, well, how many times should I post? Can somebody tell me? No one can. No one can, because they're not you, and you're your own thing.
Was that we look at like who's the girl? Sorry, who's the girl from Australia who's really big? Who you were talking about before? Anna Paul, or even like Alex Earl, right? And some of these people, and they're just their whole lives are just dominated. And that's the thing with TikTok, especially the treadmill of the platform, is like you can, if you wanted to, sell your soul to that platform, and that's all you're doing all day, every day. But you won't be able to, like, people. I don't know how people live.
I wonder,
and produce the content at the level.
I admire them, like Eden, who I saw the other day, Eden Halves. I was on a podcast, and I said to her, something I admire about you. You film so much, and it seems so natural. It doesn't seem to be stressful. She just effortlessly, she'll be making dinner and she thinks to record it. Like I've had to teach myself to remember to record it. Like, so I don't know how I don't know if it's real, if they're actually struggling, or if they're not.
But that's the thing. It's like,
but maybe that's them.
But also how some people, that'll make them happy. For others, that's going to be like, I can do. I'm not that I'm a creator, right? But I can do that. I can be in a position where that's my whole life is just filming everything and having that in such an intense way. And I guess for you, it's working out how to make it work for your life, for your structure, for what you want to do, and getting it strategically laid out on paper where it's really super clear and actually like, yeah, I can do that.
Oh, it's nice to talk to someone who knows what I'm saying on the level that because the people around you, they can be like, oh yeah, I get that, and they give their advice, but you're like, just
Probably they're trying to
that
figure it out, right?
They don't even know what I'm saying, really.
Yeah.
They're just trying to give me the best advice they can, but they'll say something and I'm like, I've already thought that.
Yeah.
I've already been through that a million times. But you know exactly what I'm saying, and you actually say things I'm actually like internalising.
Okay,
so that's good.
No, I'm glad.
But comparison is the thief. Seriously, I've had to stop myself watching other girls on TikTok that I really love because I can't just enjoy their content like I'm not a creator. I watch it and
That was really good. It's like, yeah, but only they can do that thing and only you can do what you do.
Yeah.
And it's realising that, and you'll never be them, and that's why you're good at what you do, and they'll never be like anybody else. That's why they're good at what they do, right?
Exactly.
And it's just doubling down on you and making the flow of content so you're able to produce as much as you can, that's as much great content as you can that you would like watching as much as possible, but not focusing on other people and just.
Exactly.
But then again, that's the key, is like making it realistic. And if you're worried about, well, they're posting 5 times a day or they're posting 4 times a day, it's never going to work. It's like Madeline Argy was on our
I was just thinking
podcast
about
show and we were talking. So she was on our panel for one of the podcast show stuff, and I was talking to her, and she's really, I think she's learned. I think it was even she said it on the panel, to like block out everything else. Like that's because she's quite anxious and has struggles with overthinking everything else. And for her, it's clearing that noise and just doubling down on what she does best. She started a podcast in her car, and it's very different. It's a very kind of unconventional way of doing it. It's purely on YouTube. She talks in her car and just like says what's on her mind. Does pretty well, right? And she's has got this amazing new deal, which she signed, everything else. So it's like sticking to you and not worrying about the noise is the most important thing, and then working out a structure to make content that really fits into your life, so that it's enjoyable. Because the minute it becomes a chore, and if you feel like you're back in the 9 to 5, and that's why the 9 to 5 mindset isn't right for this, because you never want to feel like you're stuck and you're trapped. And I think TikTok especially is a treadmill that a lot of people are miserable in.
People always comment like, you need a podcast, when are you going to do a podcast?
You're doing an amazing
blah, blah.
show.
And I'm like, oh.
Likely it is you're not going to be moving back to London full time.
No.
Right. So then it's like, don't bother about a big set. Don't bother about any of that stuff. Just make a show that you can realistically produce every week. Set 2 hours to film it and record it. Prep 3 or 4 topics for the show.
And I feel like that will be, it's
people
easier to just chat as well. Whereas TikTok, you have to put a lot more effort into trying to get someone's attention in the first 5 seconds.
Yeah.
And I'm filming a story time, and like people go to me, you're so natural. And I'm like, that was not natural. Let me tell you now, I said that one sentence 300 times.
Yeah.
Or especially when you're trying to do your makeup and do a face mask at the same time as you're telling a story, because that's what people do now. And it's what, they're staring at your brush while you're talking, so it keeps them engaged, and there's all these tricks. So you try and do that. But that means I literally drip my serum onto my cheek and try and tell a certain part of the story. But I stuttered. Got to wipe the serum off and do it again. And it's literally like I'm running out of serum.
Yeah.
And but people are like, oh
people
wow,
don't know that
was so natural. I'm like, seriously, no. Like,
it took me 4 hours.
And I didn't even get to say anything I wanted to say.
How long does it take to film a story, like to film one that you're happy with and edit?
If something's just happened to me so crazy and it's off the cuff, sometimes I can just do it like I did on the train that time. And I'm like, oh yeah, that feels good. But if it's like intentional, sitting at my desk with the ring light on, I have to tell a story about something my ex did to me 10 years ago, it'd probably take like an hour. I'm criticising myself through it, and that wasn't funny enough. I could have said that funnier. There's always something you could have added. I'm not telling the whole story. There's not enough time. I feel like I have to do it in 3 minutes as well. Otherwise, people lose interest, which isn't true because everyone wants the long content, but it doesn't feel like that on TikTok.
Yeah.
So you're right. I would probably thrive better with long form content. It's just that
it's way less.
It's that period in between where I know that I'm used to getting a certain amount of views, like seeing the numbers on TikTok, and I won't see those numbers straight away.
But
on
you
YouTube.
will as you know, you will in time.
Yeah.
But you have to start, otherwise they won't come. Because on YouTube especially, it's like, unless you are sort of hacking more of a viral video, which you have to game, and you can do it. As I said, there's videos that do really well with very few subs, people just starting out, and they can bang. They're quite rare. Like the majority of people you have to grind it out. And especially if you're building an audience, if it's 500 people who watch the first episode and they're like, this is amazing, then okay, over time, that algorithm's going to build and build and build. You're going to get more and more exposure. And in a year, that could be 500,000. And actually then you're like, now I'm set because my audience is is deeply engaged in what I'm saying. And I think for you especially, I think people, like the longer format, the less edited. TikTok's so choppy, and obviously you have to, as you say, you have to make it work for the platform. But there's an even though it's hyper authentic, there's an inauthenticity in it because everything's very like formatted. And I think as a result, people I think know that, right? They like get entertainment out of it. The depth of connection is lost because it's so constructed. And I think on YouTube, with the podcast especially, and obviously, and YouTube generally, right, you can get your personality across in a way better way.
100%. Because on TikTok, I find myself, I just want to say, when I'm telling a story, I need to say at one point or think, but I can't include that bit because there's not enough time for the But it would actually be more relatable if I said
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
Yeah, but I think you should do it.
Okay.
Do it.
No, I will.
Amazon, literally, buy a mic. You can get like an easy kit. And you don't, like, kit is not as important. It's just putting it up.
And I can do solo episodes, and then I could do some relationship stuff and have my boyfriend on.
Sick. People love that'd be hilarious.
Every 2 weeks.
And also because that's directly linked to the TikTok, like to the story that people have invested in, you'll get a nice crossover as well.
Should I make a new channel?
Or keep it on your existing. Keep on your existing.
Right, okay.
And then just obviously if there's videos you don't want to share, but I just keep it and just start it. Key is thumbnails and titling. Get those 2 things right. Thumbnails, you can go on Twitter, there's loads of kids who do thumbnails that are really good. Make it really like work for YouTube now, because if you don't, it's like hyper-realism's the thing, so making things that feel realistic, just elevated, not sort of fake, and there's none of the sort of big expressions and stuff as much anymore. Anyway, that's a whole thing. Thumbnails, titles, and consistency, and you'll be complete. Honestly, it will smash it.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome. We've been
talking for ages.
Yeah. So let's kind of let's wrap it up slightly, but that was super interesting. And yeah, I'm excited to see it.
Thank you.
So where would you like to be in 5 years' time? If you click your finger, do you know?
To be quite honest, my mind goes blank when you say that, so I obviously don't know.
Same with me.
Yeah, I obviously don't know. I would like to just reel off a few things that would be nice. I would like to maybe own a property. I don't know where. I would like a little base in London where I can
Bali, you can get some bangers.
You can, but you can't buy. You can't buy properly. You buy the land and it's all very confusing.
Okay, someone I know bought a beautiful house, but you have to pay in cash. I think you can't get mortgages.
Yeah, but you only own it for a certain amount of time.
Do you?
Yeah, I've looked. I love Bali. I love Bali, and I would pick Bali, but there's all this confusion there. I'd like to have a little base in London that I can rent out, and so maybe also multiple streams of income, more than I do now. Maybe the podcast, maybe the YouTube. I'd also like to do some TV because I think I'd just thrive. Like I'd like to do some presenting. I'd like that. And I would even go on a reality show again. But there's not a lot of reality shows for people in relationships.
Traitors?
They emailed me the other day.
Did they?
Yeah. And I still haven't completed my application.
Dude, the traitors would be great.
I think I might, because
Traitors is sick. You'd be very good at that.
I like things like that. Yeah, I like that weird mansion vibe.
Yeah, but also it's like it's all nice and innocent. There's nothing weird about it, but it's also very compelling. And I think your person, you'd be funny. You'd be so funny on that.
Right, I'll apply for that when I get home as well then.
Yeah, do it.
But yeah, I just want to experience things, travel more, be richer, and have a couple assets to my name as well that make me feel a bit more free and secure in what I'm doing.
And lastly, who is a creator that you're loving at the minute?
I love Madeline Argy. I watch a lot of podcasts. Like I love Diary of a CEO, so I love Stephen.
Big up Stephen.
Right, I love Stephen, and I love Jay Shetty. I think he's so great. Real. The conversations he has, that's the kind of conversations I want to have.
He is blown. So like I remember when I was the management company I was at before had the opportunity. It's like famous. We had the opportunity to sign him in 2018, just before I jumped right. Like Mary, who's a CEO, saw everything in him, was like, yeah, he's gonna be amazing at it. And for some reason, I think he didn't. I think because that's right, we didn't have a US base, and he wanted a US base, so he couldn't sign him. My guy's now like probably one of the top in the world at what he does.
Yeah.
And like fair play. Mary, he's a CFO, he's amazing. So obviously saw him and was like, he's the one. But the fact that he got away was like sad, because actually think about how big he got and how big he is now. And obviously like, the Kim episode recently was like ridiculous, and yeah, fair play. He's killing it.
I think I love Jay Shetty the most at the moment. I try not to watch too many TikTok creators because I don't want to compare myself. But I love Victoria Paris. Don't know if you know who that is.
Yeah. I think so.
And Soph and Cinzia. They're my only.
They record over the road.
Oh really? Oh my God, gonna pop it.
Yeah.
No, I would never. Yeah, but love them.
Yeah. Amazing. Look, Sam, this was so much fun.
Such a good convo.
Such a
I'm
good
going to walk
convo.
out all happy. 'Cause I
Good.
feel like it was really fulfilling for me as well.
No, I'm really glad, and thank you so much for coming on. And yeah, I can't wait for your podcast. It's gonna be a banger.
Thank you.